Hi everyone, my name is Alexis Hooper. I'm going to be doing my final project here for my ECS 427 Highly Individualized Teaching and Learning class. So here's just my table of contents. I'm just going to give you like a super quick overview of each topic in here. So just first is just my introduction about how I'm going to support my students in the classroom. Next is just going to be talking about motivation and how I'm going to help each child improve just overall in preschool setting. Third is going to be talking about the focused child, but it actually ended up being focused children. And I'm going to help them with their letters, and hopefully that leads to reading. And the solutions just going to be in the class. We'll be using the see/do practice, using the whiteboard for the letters. And conclusion for it is just going to be talking about what steps I really took to help the kids succeed in the class, especially with those letters to help them prepare for kindergarten. And the last one's just going to be about my future direction to see where I'm going to be at in 2 to 4 years with my degree and seeing how it really plays out for me in the end. So we're going to start with my introduction. So inclusion in ECE or early childhood education. What does inclusion really mean? So the book definition of inclusion is really just about including something or someone into a project or an activity. That's really all it is. But in a preschool classroom, it's so different. So inclusion to me, working with children, is really just engaging them in class, engaging them with projects, just keeping them involved. Not necessarily having to make them play with a certain group of kids, but just extending that hand just really allows the kids to, have this sense of welcoming, and it really helps them develop their, senses and their skills. And it's really important to just reach out and include every single child despite their differences, because I work with kids with disabilities, and I also work with kids that are also nonverbal, but I do also work with verbal children. So including them all together in one place is really important, and it's really nice to see, how it plays out for them. So that picture looks bad right now. It was clearer before, I swear. But so, especially in preschool, it doesn't matter, what you came from, who your family is, what color your skin is. Do you have any disabilities? Do you talk? Do you make sounds when, everybody's supposed to be quiet? There isn't a difference between child to child when it comes to inclusion. Inclusion is literally bringing everybody together despite their differences for a common goal. So our common goal in preschool is just to develop at those correct, milestone markers, and helping each kid reach their education potential, really. So, motivation as a preschool teacher and with my preschool students is really the one thing that I believe is not thought about very much for preschool educators is it's the first time kids are going to be in a classroom. It's the first time they're going to be away from their parents for extended amount of time with somebody they don't know. It's going to be their very first look into what education's going to, be like in the future for them. So you're their first just hit into that education world, and it's really important for us to be impactful and make it a great experience so they're not scared of moving, on to kindergarten. And those social aspects are so important for their development. I can't stress that enough. You know, sending your kids to preschool versus a parent doing it by themselves, really the only difference is that social aspect. Is, they're always working with kids, they're around each other, they see different people, they, get different experiences with, one kid likes to play on the slide, one kid likes to play with dolls, one kid likes to read. So you get those different aspects of each child and each, walk of life, really. and they all come together and they play and they have a great time. So having that social aspect is super important to keep those kids moving along. And our goal is to get them prepared for kindergarten. And that's going to come by like helping them learn the alphabet and how to write and differentiate upper and lowercase letters. So the setting I work in is a non-traditional preschool. It's called Kids Park and it's in North Scottsdale or Phoenix. And it's super fun. It's a great time. It offers care for kids ages 2 to 11, so it's a pretty big age range, which really helps out a lot of parents. They have a preschool, which I work in, which is in the same building as all the other children, and that's over at 1 o'clock at the latest every day. They also have hourly care, backup care. They're open super late at night to serve those parents with those crazy schedules. Sometimes they're there until midnight/1 a.m. Because they really do care for those kids and giving them a safe place for them to be while their parents are doing whatever they need to do. And the director, Tashani, she's great. She's really helping me learn, developing me as a professional, and it's really awesome. I just love working there, and the kids are awesome. The parents are great, and it's definitely a place that I want to continue volunteering at throughout my college career. So my focus child or focus children. So my original focus child was actually Gabby. She's 4 years old. She can't read very much, maybe one line, and that's pushing it. And she doesn't apply herself when she doesn't know how to do something. She'd rather go and look at somebody else's paper than, try herself. She can write some letters, but not all of them. And she struggles to do uppercase letters. She does still struggle with that alone, but I need to work with her on lowercase letters as well. She can verbally spell her name, but it's super inconsistent. One day she can spell it, and maybe 10 minutes later, she's not spelling it correctly. So I don't know why there's such a big disconnect there sometimes. Like she's just not paying attention and she wants to do something else, is like my best guess. And Charlotte, after Gabby got COVID during that last week for my project, Charlotte really stepped up to the plate and helped me out for this project. And she ended up being my second focus child, or my ending focus child. And she can verbally spell very well. She can do other things other than her name. And Charlotte's a pretty long name for a 4-year-old, and her last name's also long as well. So she does really well at spelling her name. She knows how to write her first and last name. She can't really read as well. She can get through like 1 to 2 lines, and then after that, I'm kind of just helping her. She applies herself in everything she does. She's also 4 years old, but the one thing I also need to work with her is her lowercase letters. She knows how to do a lowercase a, and I think that's all she knows how to do. So, the start was kind of rough. Nobody really has pushed them like I have for this project. So it was really interesting to see how they worked with each other and worked with me for this. So environmental supports. So there's 3 main supports that we're going to talk about. It's going to be physical, social, and temporal. So physical in my classroom, Kids Park, is main thing for preschool is going to be alphabet and numbers. So we have an alphabet and numbers carpet that has pictures on it as well. And we use that to play games to help promote their learning. And every single toy bin that is anywhere in that preschool, they're all labeled. They all have pictures of what goes there as well as written labeling. So, for example, we have a toy that we call the Pretty Pink Castle. And that's a lot for even me. So we say, hey, Gabby, can you go put away the pretty pink castle? They may not know what you're talking about at first, but they'll see the toy, they'll see the picture on the bin where it's supposed to go, and they actually can look at how it's spelt. They may not be able to, really decipher which each letter is, since they do struggle with upper and lowercase letters. They do get to see us, they get to hear us saying Pretty Pink Castle, and they get to make a connection with the physical writing of Pretty Pink Castle. So it helps give that different level of learning, just in an everyday, setting. And as I said before, like, social aspect is huge. It is a big, 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 big part of preschool, and just being around kids and kids being kids. So at Kids Park, we actually have an outdoor playground as well as an indoor playground, and it's really great to see the kids working and playing together. They really come together to solve issues and problems. And for example, like, we have a water table outside that requires at least 4 students, to make it run properly. So there's like these little water gates on each side of the table. A kid has to hold them, and they're not, big enough yet to reach over the table. So 4 kids have to be there to hold open those gates so the water flows down and it goes down um, the little tube, and then it makes this little spinner go, and it's just a really great time. And it's that immediate connection with, hey, if I have, 4 people here, we all can play a part in this, and we go to a common goal. So that's nice. And then temporal is kind of difficult, but it's literally just about keeping kids aware of what's going on for the day, keeping up posters. So, like at Kids Park, we post schedules throughout the day, exactly what's going on. We have printed out directions next to each sink about how to wash their hands, and it has the writing. So, if a child wants to see if they can read it, they can, but also has pictures to go along with it so they can make that connection as well. And we actually have a couple emotion charts all around the classroom, simply because we do have those nonverbal children. So it is really helpful to use when we can't necessarily understand what's going on with the kid, and we kind of ask them, it's like, hey, how are you feeling today? And they'll go over to the chart and they'll point at it. So that's something that's super great to have, especially working with kids that are nonverbal or on the spectrum. It gives them a way to decipher how they feel, because it has pictures on it with, faces and sad faces, happy faces, mad faces. So it gives that physical connection, as long as they make that connection for it. And the curriculum modifications. So there's 3 for this one as well. There's adult, peer, and invisible support. So adult support is showing students how to do something that they're just not ready yet or not confident in yet. And you do it and you ask them, hey, I did this, but I don't really remember what I did. Can you show me? And they'll get up there and they'll go and do it. So that's like a quick and easy way to support a kid. It's very one-on-one, don't need any outside help. And then peer support is really important, just for the development of a child. So let's say a child's struggling with a worksheet, and they come to you because you're the teacher, but you said, maybe one of our friends can help us with this question. What do you think? And, let's say Gabby's doing it and she needs help, and we'll look over to Charlotte. But, hey, Charlotte, can you help us with this question? And we just make it super inviting and make the kids know that it's okay to ask help from each other, simply because as kids get older, they're going to start doing group projects. And the biggest thing you can do in a group project is to get support from your peers, and it is very, very helpful because students can explain it a different way than a teacher can, and it's just a different level that maybe the way I teach it doesn't really click with the student, but if another student teaches the way they know, sometimes it's the best way for them. And invisible supports are a little more difficult, simply because it's something that educators do without even thinking. So, for example, you're doing a game. Um, let's say it's a pickup game with marbles, and the first student needs to pick up 8 marbles. But for example, let's say that first student only knows how to count to 4. So they're not going to be successful in that position of the game because they don't know how to count up to 8. So you're going to position the kids to their skill level. So you're going to have the kid that knows how to count to 8 to go first, the kid knows to count to 7 go second, so on and so forth until we get to that kid that does know how to count for those certain numbers. So that's a quick way to explain invisible support, because you're not directly saying, hey, Elijah, you need to go in this spot so you can count for 4 because I know you don't know how to count to 6. So instead of saying, hey, I know you can't do that, you just place them in an order that allows them to flow naturally, and just really handle the situation really well. And they can get through the project thinking that, they really worked well on that. And it's just a great way to help support them and help boost their confidence. So our 3 big goals of preschool in general and working with my, focused children is, number 1, recognizing letters, super important. Number 2 is to differentiate upper and lowercase letters, because that's something that you're going to do every single day. Writing your name, your first letter of your name is going to be in uppercase and everything else is going to be lowercase. And it's the same thing with your last name. Your first letter is going to be uppercase and the rest are going to be lowercase. So that is super important. And then obviously writing those upper and lowercase letters, not only being able to decipher which letter is which is super helpful when you're reading, but being able to write those upper and lowercase letters will allow you to get ready to write sentences when you get to kindergarten and first grade. So here's my little activity matrix here. This one was mainly focusing on Gabby, but I also can share about Charlotte as well. So Gabby's current level of functioning is she couldn't recognize very many letters, especially recognize the difference between upper and lowercase letters, and she only knows a few of them. Let's see if I can move this out of the way. Yeah, only a few of them. And so our first step with Gabby to help us get to that goal is we're going to assess exactly which letters she knows, and she only knows the uppercase of her name. She doesn't know how to do the lowercase yet, so we're going to practice those lowercase letters of her name because that's something that she's going to write every single day of her life, at least in school. And our second step is going to introduce new letters every single day, and that one single letter is going to be the focus for the entire day. So my favorite thing to do is to use dots on the paper, so it gives her, these focal points to take her pencil along and follow those dots, and it helps get, build that muscle memory of how to do each letter. So practicing the movement of the letter is super important. And our third step is I like to use whiteboards because, if you make a mistake, you can wipe it away instead of it, staring in your face and you start getting in your head. That's the last thing I want, especially for Gabby. She gets in her head a lot and she'll start crying when she feels like she's getting overwhelmed. And I have her practice on the whiteboard as many times as she can handle. And I have her write as many letters that she possibly knows. And it gets us to our final goal, which is recognizing the difference between upper and lowercase letters and hopefully having the ability to write those certain letters, uppercase and lowercase. At the bare minimum, I want her to know how to do her own name in both upper and lowercase letters. And Charlotte, she didn't really struggle too hard on writing. She does now she's a lot better at writing her lowercase letters of her name, but since her name is long, it did take her a lot longer to practice those. Let's see, next one. So this is something I do for like my embedded teaching is I write the letters on the big whiteboard in class, so when kids walk by, they can see it and they can just do some quick, learning without even thinking about it. So just doing daily letter practice is super important, and using whiteboards is super fun, engaging. You can make it into a fun game. You can pick out a kid, say, hey, what letter is this? And then you cover the, capital letter for it. And you say, okay, well, now what letter is this? And, the kids that do know it are going to say, that's a lowercase I, or that's an uppercase I. So it makes it super fun and engaging. It's a great way to work with students, just practicing, away from, pen and paper. And from this lesson, what did I learn? And I would say the most difficult thing about it was trying to assess exactly how much, especially Gabby knew. It was difficult because she one day would know 10 letters, and the next day she would know two. So it's kind of difficult gauging exactly how she feels on that day versus like what type of production I'm going to get out of her. And the one thing I wish I could do differently is just I needed to give myself more time with both Charlotte and Gabby, because I wanted to get a really good comparison, but I didn't really think that Gabby would get sick here in this last week, so I didn't really get a full, developed view as to how Charlotte, works, especially with her letters. She did learn pretty quickly about three of the lowercase letters. So I think as I practice with her some more, maybe in 3 more weeks, she might have her first name done with lowercase letters. And I would say the most interesting thing I would say that I learned from this work that I did with both Gabby and Charlotte is that they both preferred the whiteboard versus pen and paper or pencil and paper or crayon and paper, because they think like I do, and they're like, I don't want to stare at my mistake, and I just want to wipe it away. So I understand that 100%, and I think that's the way I'm going to attack, learning letters and definitely learning the difference between upper and lowercase letters. So here's the last things like on my future learning. So my number one goal is to graduate ASU. Hopefully it'll be done in the fall. Second is going to get my teaching credentials for elementary school and then also get my preschool certifications. And three, I want to secure a job to learn under another teacher that has been in, you know, preschool and kindergarten for many years so I can learn their tips and tricks. And the last thing is just I want to become an excellent teacher for my students, and I want to lead them, to the best education path possible, and I want to help them ensure that they hit those developmental stages. And here's my references. It was super fun. I had a great time doing this. I really appreciate everybody for watching this, and I hope you guys have a good one.